So a lot of people are saying that Israel's trying to get the United States into a war with Iran, but it's actually more complicated than that. The United States wants to get into a war with Iran. Here's why. So back in 1971, Nixon took us off of the gold standard because, well, we were printing more money than we had backed by gold. All of our allies called us on it. We knew we didn't have the gold to pay them, so Nixon just took us off the gold standard. But since the dollar was no longer backed by gold, we had to back it with something else. So Nixon negotiated the OPEC petrodollar, where he ensured that all the Middle Eastern nations would trade oil using US dollars, which created an artificial demand for the dollar even though it wasn't backed by anything. This is the reason that we were able to remain the global reserve currency and protect the dollar despite the fact that it was worthless. Decades went by and we needed to ensure that oil would always be traded in dollars, so we got involved in coup after coup and war after war. Wars like the ones in Afghanistan, Iraq, we assassinated Gaddafi from Libya, all people who threatened to trade oil in something other than the dollar. Iran's doing the same thing today, as well as China supporting Iran because, well, they want to be the global reserve currency, not the United States. Now, since we've been applying so much pressure to China and the entire region for the course of the last 50 years or so, China has tried to establish the Belt and Road Initiative, which is something that they mean to use to undermine the dollar as global reserve currency by establishing a trade monopoly in the entire hemisphere. You can see it there on that video. Interesting enough, Bibi Netanyahu, a month before the October 7th terrorist attacks happened in Israel, announced the IMEC corridor, which is meant to go through Saudi Arabia from India and to the port of Haifa in Israel. Now, we all know what happened exactly a month later. There was this terrorist attack, what appeared to be a stand down, which Bibi Netanyahu has used to justify it, basically wiping out every breathing thing in the Gaza Strip. The reason they're committing a genocide over there? Well, it's because you can't establish a trade corridor through the port of Haifa if Haifa, like in this video, is always being bombed by terrorists. So they decided that there was no two-state solution. What they were going to do was just coax them in to commit a terrorist attack and then use that atrocity as an excuse to just annihilate and evacuate everyone from the region to secure Israel for the sake of establishing the trade route to compete with China and save the US dollar. So does Israel want a war with Iran? Absolutely. They stand to make a lot of money off of this IMEC corridor. But so does the United States. The United States wants this war with Iran because it will be a proxy war with China, which will allow us to establish the IMEC corridor and save the fake dollar for the time being and remain the global reserve currency. So ultimately, all these conflicts in the Middle East have nothing to do with democratic values or religious ideals. They have everything to do with money, money, money.